Yeah.
We're live with MMA fight coverage. Is that what's happening now? That
Yes,
the
sir.
mic goes on and we just start. Is this the new age?
Yes, sir.
It's the new age. The new age of no edits, my friend.
Yes. Yeah, man. It's a pleasure being here. I'm Scott the Cube Lewis. First time here on MMA fight coverage with you guys, man. So thank you, Carlos Ortiz, Dallas. Always a pleasure, Dallas, to see you here, brother. And there's few legends in Arizona MMA, and Sean Dallas Hall, you're one of them, brother. So good to be here with you.
You too, man. You've been around for a long time. You paved the way for the radio stuff for us and everything, man. So we appreciated it for sure.
Yeah, and I know, Carlos. We were just reminiscing about meeting at a UFC pay-per-view about 16 years ago at RT O'Sullivan's,
Yeah.
And then you came down to the Lions Den. We had some MMA training, and we were doing. We were trying to find the fight team for the Lions Den, and you came down with your late friend. Remember that awesome MMA dude?
Oh yeah, Nolly, yeah.
Oh, rest in peace. I got a horrible, tragic loss with him, but I remember meeting you there, and that's amazing. Now that 16 years later, here we are on MMA fight coverage together, and we got Josh Emmett on today, huh?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's a big score. Josh Emmett, he's got a big fight coming up with Calvin Kattar. I mean, to me, Josh Emmett wins that one. He's got to be put in that title eliminator position. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I was talking to Carlos right before we came on, and I was telling him, I'm like, listen, man, you got to feed that first question to Dallas, because I want to hear the analysis. I want to hear your breakdown, because I'm excited about that fight. And I know you are too.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a guy who's got four straight wins. His one loss came to Jeremy Stevens, which is, I mean, he got caught with that elbow. What are you gonna do, right? I mean, that happens. That's the game, I mean, and especially when Jeremy Stevens is throwing the elbow, right? I mean, so other than that, the guy's flawless in the UFC, and he's fighting a guy like Calvin Kattar who can take every shot known to man, I guess. He took 340 of them again in his last couple times out. So, man, I think it's gonna be a good one.
Looks like Jay's about to jump on. Do you want to wait for that talk until about 20 minutes when he jumps on?
Sure.
Pagliaro?
Yeah, it looks like he's about to jump on.
Beautiful. Yeah,
so
definitely.
Bowski.
And if you guys see that Dos Santos, the Castro fight with Eagle FC, that was a crazy fight, man. Felt so bad for him.
Yeah, I know Dos Santos. Was it a dislocated shoulder?
Yes, it popped out. He won the whole fight. Basically what it is, they're going to do like a fight between him and Bellator. They're going to do a deal. He's going to fight in Bellator. They're going to fight with them, and then fucking dislocate his shoulder.
I don't know if you see me instinctively grabbing my left shoulder here. I dislocated my shoulder. I have surgery on Friday. So, I understand the pain. It was severe for me. I almost wonder, did he dislocate it before? Was this a first-time injury? Because
I think the same thing.
Yeah, this was one of the most brutal injuries I've had. And I've had back surgery. I've had knee surgery. So the shoulder, man, is devastating.
Did you hear from a hook or punching or?
No, I did it during jiu-jitsu. So nothing, all the striking I've done over the years, I never really heard it that way. It would get sore, it would get tender after overuse, but it was during jiu-jitsu drilling. And I think for me, it was just a matter of I've been going so hard and so long just in training and combat sports and being involved. And I was a wrestler in high school, played football in college. So I think my shoulder just reached it. But, you got to wonder with Junior Dos Santos, what's left for him now at this age? Can he come back from that kind of an injury? Because dislocated shoulders, unless it's a recurring injury for him, that could be a pretty traumatic injury. So I wish the best for Dos Santos, one of the best heavyweights of our time, without question.
You were looking at the possibility of him fighting Fedor, which would have been probably his last big payday, right?
I think they're still going to do it, but keep going.
You what?
I think they're still going to do it.
Well, they're not going to do it with Dos Santos right now.
Yeah, that's if he can get back. I mean, you're looking at 8 months at least, 8 months, 7-8 months for him.
I'm not sure with that.
Yeah, they're gonna have to call in another Tim Johnson or something for Fedor, because I doubt it's gonna be Junior Dos Santos. It won't be him. It might be it might be what's it called? Jorgen De Castro, right? You know, Jorgen De Castro has been on a nice little run since he's been in Eagle FC. So, you know, I know you were talking, Carlos, that I need to start going to those events because we're out here in Miami. You know, it's kind of I'm out here in Florida now. You guys still based in Arizona, where I used to be based. It's still like 2 hours for me, right? So it's got to be
it's not bad.
It's got to be a really good card for me to make it out there, especially leaving the kids at this point. But
that's like me in Jersey. Basically, I was like 2 hours away, hour and a half from New York, where I'm at in Jersey. So it's like it's kind of far at the same time. Yeah, it's got to be a good card to go.
Well, listen, you guys now have all been at UFC events. You guys have all been to Bellator events as media. So, you know, I'm preaching to the choir here. When you go to an event, you're there till 11 o'clock at night for the fight, 12 o'clock at night for the fight. UFC, it could be 1 o'clock, and then you're there for the press conference.
Exactly.
So you don't go home until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you know, like if it's any kind of real show. So for me, man, it's really got to make sense. And that heavyweight fight, it was interesting. You know, Dos Santos, anytime you get to see the former champ fight, and De Castro is a fun fighter. But yeah, unfortunate ending. But what I liked is when we were talking about beforehand, Sean, you're like, how do I even watch it? And it's a great question. So tell us, Carlos,
EagleFC.com. And there's hold on, I got the app on my phone. EagleFC.com, and the other app is hold on 1 second. It's
Carlos. Carlos has every app and social media thing that you can imagine.
FLX Cast. It's free.
FLX Cast. Is that what it's
exactly
called? FLX Cast.
Flixcast?
FLX
without
Cast.
The I. Hey,
you got it nowadays with these apps. You got to spell them funny, or else nobody knows what you're talking about.
You got to remember, there's no I in Flix. No I in just like there's no I in team. And speaking about
Jay Bowski's with us.
Yes, Jay Pagliaro in that.
Oh, house. Nice.
My brothers. What is
nice. You're on there.
Fellas?
I can hear you, but I can't see you, Jay. Do I get to see you today?
So let me figure out to turn this shit on here. Hang on.
I could
Jay hides behind that beautiful radio voice.
Yeah, the golden voice of
man.
Jay Pagliaro. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
you know, there you go.
There's the Jay Bowski.
Let me get the real shit on here, and I can really be radio voice here.
There we go.
Now we're good. Now we're good.
Oh,
now
yeah.
We're good, now we're really
nice. Looking good, Jay.
Now we're good. What's up, fellas? How you doing tonight? Good to see you, Scotty. How you doing, brother?
We put the band back together, brother. It's good to see you.
Now the band is all here, my brother. Hey, it's been years in the making, my dude.
Yeah, dude. You know, it's funny because we have a connection, all of us. You know, and it's really awesome to have all of us together. You know, Jay Pagliaro and I kind of, you know, some of the originators in the game, starting some MMA radio before anybody was starting MMA radio out in Arizona. I take a lot of pride in that. I know you do too, Jay. And it's great that Sean Dallas Hall and Carlos Ortiz and our sweet, wonderful Penny Buffington helping lead us. I absolutely awesome. And our boy Wayne Craig. It's just great to be back with you guys, man.
Yeah, without those two, where would we be?
This is like the original rock band right here. Me and you, Scott. Me, you back in the day with Kurt B. You know. Now we got Dallas. It's how it started and how it ended. You know what I mean? Now it's like the whole like big circle. I just wish Jimmo was here to see it, man.
The late great Ryan Jimmo, who we were lucky enough to become friends with. Sean, you got to spend some time with Ryan too, right?
Yeah, I spent a little time with him over when he was training and stuff. I never did any of the radio stuff with him. I was after him. But when he was training over there with Vader, I used to go over there and spend some time over there. And you know, I met him a few times. You know.
Yeah, Ryan.
I can't say I knew him like as well as you fellers.
Yeah, Ryan was a special dude, and what I loved about Ryan Jimmo was that when he would go on radio, man, that guy would not hold anything back. He didn't care that he had a UFC contract. He was probably the biggest critic of the UFC, and it used to absolutely blow my mind. Bless his open heart. I love that dude. Rest in peace, Ryan Jimmo. That dude was great.
He did not give a crap, man. He didn't give a crap. He just said what was on his mind, and he worried about the consequences later. Those were like what I called, Scott, those were like the Wild West days of our radio show, where we had such a good time on there. And the funny thing is, the conversations before the show started were almost as good as the conversations on the air. And that says a lot, because the conversations on the air, holy shit, man. Those on-air conversations were gold, but off-air were even better yet.
Yeah, Carlos and Sean, we had none other than Vitor Belfort tell us that we gave him the best interview ever, but he wasn't talking about us giving the interview. He was talking about him giving the interview.
I remember that.
He was letting us know that he gave the best interview ever, right? And those are the kind of moments we hold on to, right? And like I said earlier, before you jumped on, Pagliaro, we got Josh Emmett on today. And Josh Emmett is like, can't miss TV when it comes to fighting. You know, that dude, you mentioned Jeremy Stevens. I was lucky enough, and again, Sean Dallas was talking about Jeremy Stevens and Josh Emmett, and that being Josh Emmett's last loss. I was lucky enough that I was in Orlando for that fight. And man, Josh Emmett had Stevens dead to rights, and then Stevens had Emmett dead to rights, and then Emmett came back, and then finally it was Stevens that won it. And, you know, that's the kind of fighter Emmett is, and it's pretty remarkable that he's not only on a 4-fight winning streak since that loss, but that dude was out for like a year. And I know he had a bunch of injuries, so I'm excited to talk to him, you know, because it takes a really special person, you know, not just a fighter, right, but a person to come back from that kind of adversity.
Yeah, and you want to see a guy like that active, right? Because a guy like that who's active is a problem for everybody in the division. And you got fresh matchups for everybody in the division, and you got people at the top. Look, I love to see this Holloway Volkanovski 7, right? But I mean, eventually you got to move on, right? And you get guys like him, you get all these guys that can go out there. And I feel like Volkanovski is almost like a version of him, right? Like a guy who can do everything, hit hard, who's very technical, and can wrestle, can play the jiu-jitsu game, who can do everything. And man, like we said before, Emmett's been almost flawless inside the octagon. Outside of that one loss to Jeremy Stevens, and then the one loss in the beginning of his career, right? It was at the very beginning. So I mean, I want to see it. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for see if Calvin Kattar's chin can hold up to that. Because if it does, Calvin Kattar's a real deal.
I'll tell you this, fellas. There's some of the old things I've always said. One of them is you learn a lot about a fighter in a loss. And we learned, man, Emmett has King Kong-sized brass. Because let me tell you, say whatever you want about Jeremy Stevens. If you can take those shots from Jeremy Stevens and keep pushing forward, and you're not looking up at the lamps getting a stiff and salts, you've got these, man. You've got these. And we know Emmett's got these. And if you don't know what these are, look it up in the Webster's dictionary. Don't go too far in the Google search, because you might see more than you bargained for.
Yeah, you know what?
You know Emmett's from Phoenix originally too.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had the Phoenix Cactus background.
Hey Jay, I like your background. Sorry to interrupt you. You're
Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant.
Good. You know what I liked about Emmett, is that Shane Burgos fight. I felt like that told so much about Josh Emmett, because Shane Burgos puts that pressure and that jab on everybody, right? His boxing is so crisp and so fluid, and he made people, when his last 3 fights up before he fought Emmett, he made people look like they were on beginner level boxing. And then Josh Emmett came out there and completely negated almost all of it and put a beating on that fella. And that's a high-level competitor, right? I mean, am I wrong in saying Shane Burgos is a top 6, top 7 guy?
No, there's no question about it. I mean, Burgos versus Kattar was a great fight where Kattar kind of separated himself from Burgos, but they were neck and neck right there. That's how good Burgos is, right? And, for Emmett to take out Burgos like that, to me, Kattar is one of my favorite fighters, and Emmett's one of my favorite fighters. And that's why this kind of fight, again, when I found out that we had Josh Emmett on, it's like we get to talk to a lot of fighters. I've talked to a lot of fighters in my time, but I love talking to guys like Josh, because there's so many questions I have for him. and we're lucky enough to ask him tonight, and then we're lucky enough to see the fight because Kattar and Josh Emmett is the main event. But it's truly one of those, it can main event anywhere in the world. And I feel like I'm Jim Ross, WWE right now. That's the reality, right? This is a main event anywhere in the world because you can literally tell your friend who's not a fight fan and be like, watch this fight. And he'll most likely, unless he's apprehensive to violence and doesn't like violence, he's going to become a fight fan because this is that kind of fight.
A passive.
Would you say that? Would you say this is going to be a slobber knocker, my brother? Being
Yes,
Jim Ross up. I mean,
they're going to be hanging from the rafters, Pagliaro.
He's got a family.
He's got a family. He broke him in half.
All you need is about 6 strokes. Have about 6 strokes, and then you'll be able to get it.
So we had.
Oh, Scott,
I know we were talking Eagle FC.
Ahead,
so Carlos, if the only place to see Eagle FC is on that Flix TV, that Flix, what is that?
Flixcast or EagleFC.com, but it's free, and only a few people can come in there. It's like the friends and family and like media.
So it's like an intimate occasion to go watch some fights.
Heck yeah! So you should go, man.
It's interesting, like I went to China. I was a commentator for a show called Battlefield FC. I went to Macau, China, right before the pandemic. And the weirdest thing about it was it had a huge card. I mean, there were some big names on that card. The main event was Will Brooks versus Gleison Tebow. Decent fight card. And there was 5-6 people in the crowd, and they all were sitting together. And it was the most eerie, awkward thing. But, now we see it all the time with the UFC, with the pandemic. We've seen those kind of empty arenas. It's not as weird now, But when I experienced it in Macau, that was probably the strangest thing I've ever felt was like, where is everybody? And there's actually fights going on. And it was like 8 o'clock in the morning, China time. So really bizarre, Battlefield FC. But, yeah, Eagle FC, man, I don't know if Khabib has legs for the long run on this show or what the plan is. I don't know if it's to piggyback on UFC Fight Pass and just run some shows. I don't know if the game for him is in the sponsor money. It's not
I think it's got to be sponsor money. That's what I'm thinking.
It's not about the attendance always, right? I mean, the game has changed. There's a lot of money out there for streaming services, and if you can produce content and you have a name like Khabib Nurmagomedov, you don't necessarily have to compete with the UFC to get millions of dollars these days. But so I almost wonder if that's the long play.
They're not charging anything for the streaming service. That's what I'm wondering. Like, they're not charging, and it's free. So it's like, where are they making the money?
But probably again, you're in the embryo stage, So right now, it's probably just getting eyes on the product, and they're probably pushing it. I would think that they're probably pushing it, trying to figure out a way to make this a profitable business by finding a streaming partner.
Yeah, I think there's some money coming in from alternate sources.
Yeah,
oh, there is.
Tell us your I know you got those sources, Sean Dallas Hall. So go ahead and give us drop us some info. We won't tell anyone.
I don't know if it's coming from the government of Dagestan. I couldn't tell you. I'm not their accountant, right? But I know that guy's got money to spend, and he loves MMA. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Go ahead and follow
the number one
Kareem
bullshit? The number one
Zidane
bullshit there.
If you want to know.
Yeah, that's I wonder what's going to happen with Eagle FC, but as long as they throw on some good fights, I'm happy. The fact is there's a lot of fight shows these days because there's a lot of streaming services. It gives people an opportunity to run a show and have a platform, and you didn't always have that back in the day. Before it's like, where can we be on? How can we even compare? And nowadays, like, everybody and their mama is on UFC Fight Pass.
Shit, but they got a lot of money. I mean, you're talking about, you hear their commentary crew is Chael, Kamaru, and
Cejudo.
I don't know who does
Cejudo.
And so, yeah, so are you kidding me? Like, that shit can't be free.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, where's that coming from?
Ortiz, what were you saying? Who is the other guy?
Cejudo.
So yeah, they're spending some money on those guys because they're not going to waste their time flying out there and doing the events if they're not getting paid big money.
No.
Yep.
Chael ain't showing up for free. I know that much.
Yeah, I mean,
Henry damn sure is. Henry isn't. Henry ain't powdering his ass for free, man. Come on, you know that. Henry's not rolling out of bed in Scottsdale for a couple G's. Let's go.
Yeah, let's speaking of free, let's hope Chael stays free after his little hotel run-in. I don't know if there's I don't know if there's any repercussions, but none of that sounds good. I'll tell you, man. I was reading some updated information, and I've always loved Chael Sonnen, but it comes off really bad. Did any of you guys read the information about the husband and the wife, and they got beat up in the hallway?
Yeah, what it was supposedly somebody grabbed his wife, then he fought these guys. I don't know, like.
Yeah, but it got updated. It changed. The story completely flipped. Remember when it first came out? It was he was defending his wife off from like 5 dudes or something, right? And then all of a sudden now it's something else. I don't know what it is. I stay out of it. I'll wait till the court makes a ruling. That's what
listen. We all love our fighters, but the reality is some of these guys are fighters, right? I mean, fighters at heart, and if they get mad or they get angry or something's not working right, or the first instinct is a fight. So I mean, I don't think anybody should be too surprised a fighter is fighting.
Yeah,
no.
Josh said he's gonna. Sorry, not to. He's gonna head. Sorry, not to you guys. Josh said he's gonna be on any minute. But before he gets on,
I'll just take this real quick. Only Chael can go 5-0 in one night. Only Chael can go 5-0 in one night and make it look damn good, man.
Yeah,
he's the only undefeated fighter ever.
That's right.
Yeah, that's like Lee Murray. That's like Lee Murray legend bar fighting stuff right there.
Lee Murray. Or Scott Lewis and Jay Pagliaro at the Arizona Event Center. Only Scott Lewis can kick off his flip-flops, and I can take off my coat and make it look damn good. Inside joke. You remember that, brother. You remember that one.
Things get heated when a man kicks off his flip-flops. It's at that point it's on, right? I mean, the flip-flops come on.
Then the shit hits the fan.
That's when it's on.
Hey, Scott, remember I want to fight Archie O's when I was working that fight, and then like somebody fought at Archie O's and you jumped in. You remember that one?
No, I feel like I'm always jumping in the fights though, clearly.
It was a bar fight, but you messed up some guy, but it's all good.
Oh, see, I
just remember the one though.
Hey, first of all, Carlos, don't bring that shit up on national on something. You don't talk about people getting in fights.
No, he was in the right. He was in the right. So
bringing up
fights
from 15 years ago, unbelievable, Carlos.
No, he was good though. He stopped the fight. He stopped guys being stupid. So he wasn't working security, but he became security that night.
Well, listen, I can tell you one thing.
Speaking of people who are always in the right, our next guest is always in the right, whether he's kicking ass and taking names or he's taking a beating and still kicking ass and taking names. This gentleman has a big fight coming up with Calvin Kattar here in the UFC. He originally had some roots in Phoenix, Arizona, but now he's laying roots in the 145-pound division. He is the one and only Josh Emmett. He joins us here on MMA Fight Coverage. Scott, I know you want to add some stuff on top of my cherry, so go ahead of that. But
yeah, woohoo, yeah.
You're a good introduction.
Thanks for having me on. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Fantastic, man. It's awesome to have you on here. We actually were talking a lot about you even before the show started because we're all fans of yours, man. I mean, you're kind of can't miss fighting TV. And I was lucky enough to be there in Orlando, which, was actually your last loss. But I want to start it right here because obviously you got Calvin Kattar coming up, main event. You've been on a 4-fight win streak. And to me, it's amazing, right? The last time I saw you fight, you lost with Jeremy Stephens in an amazing fight. And now 4 fights in a row after some serious injuries. So how does that happen, man? I mean, how does somebody have the will to come back from that kind of adversity? Tell us a little about the path that kind of has taken you here because, again, you lost with Jeremy Stephens. His career has gone one way, and now you're fighting main event against Calvin Kattar, and I think it's a pretty incredible story.
Yeah, no, it's just, man, my ultimate goal, I got into the UFC, or I got into fighting because I wanted to fight in the UFC. Once I got in the UFC, my goal is to be a world champion. I think most people, that should be your number one goal. Otherwise, why the hell are you fighting? And so I had a small hiccup with that loss. I was winning that fight. I learned a lot from that fight. Whereas I was trying to conserve my energy at the time, but I'm in great shape and I should have done what he did to me in the second round when I dropped him in the first. But in my mind, I was like, oh, you got 1 minute, you got 4 more rounds. We'll finish him in the second. That'll never happen again. So it was a learning process. I'm grateful for all my losses. I'm grateful just the path and the route that I've went, just because I wouldn't be in the position I am if if anything was different. And I've had a hard road, like as far as career wise with MMA and just just life. But that's just kind of molded me into the person and fighter I am. And I'm so close to achieving my ultimate goal, and we just have Calvin Kattar standing in front of me.
Yeah, and I'll
You're
let
talking
Jay
about
yeah, so
Michael
not to interrupt, but
Johnson.
I'm gonna lead it right into you, Sean. I just wanted to throw something out there, real quick, and then I'll let you ask the next question. So for you, Josh, pace, that's the biggest difference, was the pace of your fight, and that's what's changed for you. What did you do training wise to kind of change that for you? I mean, was there a difference in training? Is it just a difference in mindset? What changed for you to help kind of change the way your pace is in the fight?
Yeah, really nothing. It's my training's always been the same. I think with like one big takeaway, obviously from the Stevens fight, was just I just learned, like when I have someone hurt, like my boxing coach Joey Rodriguez always says, once they're drunk, or keep them drunk. Once they're drunk, keep them drunk. And that's the thing. Like I'm in great shape. I should have went in for the kill. I did not. I also, I learned a lot from that with being, okay, I had one loss prior to that, but I still, to this day, I don't think I lost that fight. I got hometown in someone's, hometown by a split decision. So, you still feel like, as an amateur, I was undefeated. I felt like I was undefeated as a professional. I was knocking out these guys in the UFC. I was climbing the ranks. So you kind of feel invincible, but yeah, 4-ounce gloves in a fight, you're not. So I definitely had to learn that the hard way. But like I said, I'm grateful for that. And yeah, it's just it motivates the hell out of me. I have a lot of things that motivate me, and just to have this fire lit underneath me and gets me up every day and gets me to training. And yeah, it's just we're one step closer. So other than that, like my training's always been the same. I think I'm just kind of coming into my own, and I still haven't even got to show you guys or the fans like really what I'm capable of. Like my coaches and teammates know exactly what I'm capable of, and hopefully Calvin brings the best out of me on June 18th.
Jay, you had something you wanted to?
Yeah, I wanted to throw this out there about that Stevens fight too, and he was infamous for probably all the wrong reasons at Conor press conference, but he brought up a valid point there. When he hits people, they don't freaking move. And I know he was a little bit more vulgar than that, but we can't say it on here. You ate his best stuff in that fight. I mean, you were taking some of his nastiest shots and still pushing forward. So I think, one of we talk about on here a lot is you learn a lot more about a fighter in a loss than you do a win. And we learned that you're a tough human. You're probably one of the toughest SOBs at 145 pounds. But you said, you learned to go for the kill. Do you think you learned also as well that maybe sometimes, in a fight like that, you get caught up in firefights, maybe, or do you want to maybe pace it a little more? I mean, when in a fight like that, and because you're fighting somebody like Calvin, who certainly can sling the leather as well. I mean, in this fight, what's your strategy going to be with somebody like him, who also throws some pretty heavy leather and can take a beating as well?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't have a game plan going into a lot of fights. I just kind of, feel it out. Like, obviously, we're going to start on our feet. If I'm getting the better of him, we'll keep it there. And I want to, and it sounds weird, but I want to get hit by him. I want to see how hard he does hit. I want to see when we get into a clinch, how strong he is, how fast he is. I'm also, it's, I can go anywhere in the fight. I come from a wrestling background too. People don't know that, but I wrestled at the 4-year level in college, and I could go out there and take people down and grind them out and be boring, but I'm going out there to have a spectacular performance. And we're just gonna see how it is. Like, on paper, yeah, it possibly could be my toughest fight, but I really don't know until I get in there. I give all my opponents all the respect in the world, but until I get in there and see how fast they are, feel how hard they hit, and actually fight them, then I'll tell you if it was my toughest one on the night of the 18th.
So obviously,
we talk about since your loss, right? Michael Johnson, who perennial has been in the top 15 many times of his career, right? Mirsad Bektik, who has always looked good, right? You dusted both of those dudes, right? You come out, and Shane Burgos, who we were talking about before you were on, his boxing makes people look silly sometimes. and you went out there and negated that to a T, and then you go out and you beat Dan Ige. I mean, at this point, if you beat Calvin Kattar, I mean, you gotta feel like you are the best matchup for Volkanovski at this point. Do you not?
Oh, 100%. I've been saying that for years. You know, I thought Volkanovski was going to be the one to upset Holloway just because styles make fights, and then you know I've been saying that Volkanovski and I also match up stylistically the best out of everyone. You know, I'm a little taller. I feel like, yeah, we come from similar backgrounds. You know, both powerful, both explosive, wrestling backgrounds. I feel like I hit harder. But yeah, we'll see. You know, like first, I cannot overlook Kattar, but
Sure.
yeah, he's a dangerous test. He's right in front of me. So once I do get my hand raised and do win, then I'm looking to fight for the title next.
Now, I know
and when
Josh.
you look at a guy like Calvin Kattar, right? I mean, you look at yourself and the matchup of that, right? If you're able to negate the boxing of a guy like Shane Burgos and then work with Shane Burgos for this camp, right? I mean, Shane came in and worked with you. I mean, if you're able to negate that length and that boxing, that jab, I mean, that's kind of what he does best as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you were able to do that with him, you know, are you looking to try to do the same thing? I mean, are you looking to try to work the same game plans as far as negating the jab, negating the straights, stuff like that?
Yeah, you know, it's you know, I have good boxing too, you know, so it's I've been boxing for a long time. Before I got in the UFC, I was going to try to go pro as a boxer, and it's different with MMA gloves. You know, you can't shell up and throw all those punches like you typically can with boxing gloves. But yeah, no, I have a good friend that is a pro boxer, and we spar a lot, you know. And I go to boxing gyms, and all these boxing coaches think I come from a boxing background. And then once my coach Joey tells them no, he comes from a wrestling background, they're just kind of, they're amazed by that. So yeah, and I spar with people that are longer than Kattar. Kattar has a phenomenal jab. He's long. He uses that reach really well as well. But you know, I've fought people with longer reach. I feel like I fought people that are faster, like Michael Johnson. No one's really faster than him, and I still saw all his punches. And if you watch that fight, I really didn't get hit with a whole lot of anything. So yeah, no, you know, I think my stand-up is great. I know my wrestling's great. I know my ground game is great. So I feel like we pick these, you know, all the martial arts. If we go into single aspects, I think I win everywhere. You know, I just have to put it together. I just have to show up and be the best version of myself that night, and nobody can beat me.
My last one, and I'll let you guys, I'll throw it back to you. I'm a Twitter follower of yours, and I saw a video you put up the other day of your walkout shirt. How fucking cool was that? I mean, unbelievable. The artist was, I mean, everything was cool about it. Tell us about how you got hooked up with that deal, and where can we pick that up? Because that looks, it looks awesome. It's one of the coolest walkout shirts I've seen.
Yeah, David Garibaldi. He's a local artist, but he's also a famous artist. He's well known all over the world. You know, he was on tour with Kiss for like 60 days opening their shows. He does all these NBA halftime shows. He does. I think he painted for Barack Obama at the White House. He painted for Kanye at his house. Everyone knows him. So I had this idea. I just wanted to, you know, have him, because he's really creative, and just kind of paint something of me, and then have, you know, we took that image off, and we're doing t-shirts and prints of the painting, and it has like a Texas theme. It also has like things that kind of represent me, you know, like my family and friends and wife, our travel, you know, just like good and bad times, and just a little bit of everything. So it's he did an amazing job. It's super neat. You guys can check. You can buy the shirts and check out the video on my website at joshemmett.com. Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that.
Awesome.
Hey, Josh. So, you know, for me, I think you've long been one of the more overlooked and underappreciated fighters, if you will. And I think in our modern day of MMA, where a lot of trash talk gets stabbed to notice, you let your fight do the talking for you. Do you think this fight, two top 5 guys basically, do you think this is the fight that's going to put you in that position for a title fight? I mean, obviously, you've been in main events before. The UFC Orlando fight was a main event for you. So you're not a stranger to main events, but obviously when you get into that top 5, every fight just means a little bit much more. Do you feel like if you can make a statement against Calvin Kattar, that that's the kind of fight that's going to put you in position to grab the mic and say, I'm next in line, I'm the guy that deserves that shot?
Yeah, 100%. You know, if you think about it, the only guys in front of Calvin and I would be Ortega and Yair, and they're fighting each other, and they both lost to the guys at the top. Max and Volkanovski are fighting July 2nd. So I go out there, I just perform the way I know I can. Yeah, definitely. I think I'm next in line.
So listen, man, I of course, we appreciate you taking the time to come here today. I know you're busy right now training. What's the day today like for Josh Emmett? Like, what was your day like from beginning to end, if you can? Give us a peek into the life, you know, a bird's eye view of Josh Emmett.
Yeah, it was a long one. Like every day, I feel like I'm so busy except Sunday, and especially doing a bunch of interviews and things like that. So yeah, you know, I was up at 6:30 this morning. My wife and I just grabbed some coffee. I had to hop on this Zoom call for this company. We're doing a little collaboration. So I did a meeting there. I went and sparred 5 hard rounds. Came home, ate lunch, went back into the hyperbaric chamber, came home, did a little workout, hopping on with you guys. Then I got to take off here shortly and go do jujitsu with Chris Holdsworth.
Love it. Hey, you hear that, Carlos Ortiz? You went to bed at 6:30 in the morning while Josh Emmett was waking up at 6:30 in the morning. You sleep in a hyperbaric
when everybody's getting
chamber.
Out of bed, I'm just getting in it. Ain't that an old song?
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Josh,
But
listen,
hey, I got a couple questions
so
for you,
much.
real quick.
Yes, go ahead,
A couple
Jay.
quick questions for you. Couple quick questions for you. I don't want to keep you hanging too long, but I want to piggyback off what Scott said there. I know there's only a couple people ahead of you in the rankings, and they've already plowed through. Now, obviously, we can't overlook Max here, but because you know it's MMA, it's a weird sport. What do you feel you have to do in this fight with Calvin, besides the obvious next win, to leave no doubt in the UFC's mind that you're next in line after this Volkanovski-Holloway situation is resolved once and for all?
Yeah, I just have to go out there and perform. You know, if I just show up and, you know, I feel like if I want the best Calvin Kattar, you know, I want him to, you know, I'll rise to the occasion. The better the fighter, the better I'll perform. And yeah, I just go out there and win a great fight. Or, you know, of course I get the finish. He's never been finished. Then I make a statement and for sure I am next. But I'm not really looking forward to, or I'm not really looking over like this fight or looking at the title fight. I'm just, you know, I have to do whatever, you know, means possible to get my hand raised on the 18th, regardless if it's a decision, knockout, submission, whatever it may be. I have to get the job done first before I can even think about that.
Yeah,
Calvin's
I know one of
Calvin's
us.
so easy.
One of us in here does the rankings. I don't know who he is. But if you had two of us, if you had to tell us, where do you feel like you are? What number do you feel like you are?
Man, I don't even know. It's all, I don't know where these people come up with the rankings, or I know a lot of it's like manipulated. It's weird. You'll see people they're trying to push, and someone will beat someone in the top 15, then all of a sudden they're in the top 10 or top 5, or I'm like, you know, that I've never really cared too much about rankings, because even you could be ranked super high and you're still not even getting the fights. I was ranked 4th at one point, and I've only fought people behind me. I fought one person ranked in front of me my featherweight career.
So I got to throw this to you. It says you're from Phoenix. You got some Phoenix, at least some sort of Phoenix lineage. Now, all of us, at least at one point or another, had ties. It shows roots are from Phoenix. Where in Phoenix were you from, man? We got to know. Like, inquiring minds want to know this little tidbit.
I was born in Phoenix. I was born in Phoenix, but you know, I've lived out in Sacramento since I was like 6 months old. So I had family back there, and stuff like that. So I've gone back to visit them, but they've since moved to different states. So that's where the roots come from. I was born there, but Sacramento is home to me.
Yeah. Menlo, went to Menlo, moved out of Phoenix. One Phoenix, you got the Phoenix roots. We'll adopt you as one of our own. All right, last one from me. I'm a name guy. The Fighting for Men. What story? I gotta know this story. That's a cool name. What's the story behind that? How'd you get it? And those that are probably listening to this and saying, "What the hell does that mean?" Give us the story. Paint the picture.
Say it again. I'm sorry, I kind of cut out. What was the?
The Fighting Farmer, man.
Okay.
That unique name. We got a sport full of assassins and pit bulls and assassin babies and every kind of nickname. You're the only Fighting Farmer, man. And where did that name come from? How'd you get it? And for those who are watching it are asking, what the hell does that even mean? Give us paint the picture for us, man. Where'd that? Give us the deal.
So
if you could, please.
So I don't have a nickname. It's just kind of funny though. I did this charity thing for the Children's Hospital here in Sacramento, the Shriners, and I was doing I popped on AMAs on Reddit several times, and it's kind of funny because all the people on social media and Reddit, like anything that is basically a character that's white and bald, I've been called it. So the Fighting or the Falmer is from Skyrim. It's these little blind elves and stuff like that. But I was saying I would walk out as the Fighting Falmer if Reddit raised enough money for these kids, and then they slacked on it. They didn't even raise enough money. So I was like, I'll just play along with it. People call me Voldemort and the Falmers and orcs and literally everything that it's funny. A lot of it is funny to me, but so that's where that kind of comes from. But even though I don't have a nickname, but I see people will change things up on Wikipedia and create all these things, and it's funny though.
Well, thank you for doing your time. Really appreciate it. Have a great day, sir.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Josh. Pleasure to have you, brother.
All right,
Thanks,
Look forward to it.
Yes, sir. We'll talk later, you guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Here we go. Josh Emmett, man. I'm so excited about that fight, dude. I mean, we all had questions. I thought I was wrapping it up, and you're like, no, I got 2 more. No, you're like, I got 3 more.
I know, because he hit his time mark, so I was like, I don't, because we were over. I was kind of like,
how far did we go with him?
A few minutes after, so I was like,
yeah, I was trying. I thought it was about 15, but again, I understand, man.
Yeah, no, we might have been like.
I wanted to ask him about his injury. I wanted to ask him about how he recovered from that. But it great stuff, man. Really cool to talk to a guy like that, and at the highest levels of the sport. And he's such a humble dude.
Heck yeah.
He's not the guy you would ever think is the fighter. If you met him in the bar and you told me that guy was a guy who's the nastiest dude in the world, I wouldn't dream that he would do the damage that he does. And that's one of the cool things about mixed martial arts.
Maybe you saw his ears, you would have a little hint, but
that would be it. That would be it. That would be the dead giveaway. You see the ears, you know to stay away.
Yeah, well, I think we all know
a great point, though.
A lot of people like that. We know a lot of people like that.
That
are the sweetest human beings in real life. And then when you get them and you close that door, they're just animals.
Yeah. And I also know some guys who are savage animals in and out the cage. So that's the other side of the play. But I also can relate when Josh was talking about all the ball jokes. I'm like, man, I've heard every single ball. Like, I get all the time? Steve from Jerry Springer. I don't get it as much now, but when I was younger, that was the number one thing. I would, of course, Stone Cold, right? Goldberg. But the number one thing I got was Steve from Springer. And that would piss me off more than anything. Like, dude, don't call me Steve from Springer. Call me Stone Cold, right? Call me Goldberg. Call me Vin Diesel. Tell me anything like that to rub my ego and make me feel good.
He was good.
Don't tell me I look like Steve.
He was good.
Isn't that how you got Cube moniker? Is that the Cube moniker?
Yeah, it started.
You with for the longest time.
Yeah, it started out in college where they were calling me Cue Ball because I just shaved my head, and I'm like, don't call me Cue Ball. And then they started calling me QB, and I'm like, don't call me QB, and it turned into the Cube, and then it stuck. Stuck at that point.
There's a UFC fight coming out. Volkov versus Rosenstrike. What do you guys think about that fight?
I love it, man. I love the big boys, and I love big boys that can strike. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how Volkov comes back after his loss against Aspinall, because Aspinall tore him a new one. And I mean, he made it look easy against a guy who's world class. And so it's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a very hungry and angry Alexander Volkov, and I think he's going to be too much for Rosenstrike. All that said, we've also seen a guy like Rosenstrike who's just got that one-punch power. And I think it was Volkov and what was it? Trying to think of what fight Volkov got the lights put out in the final seconds. And Rosenstrike's got that.
Derek Lewis.
Derek Lewis, right? How can I forget?
Lewis, yep,
So,
Lewis.
yep. And so we've seen that happen, but we've also seen Volkov pick apart Alexander Overeem, right? You know, before Alistair Overeem left for Bellator, Volkov is the one who sent him his walking papers, right? So we've seen how good Alexander Volkov is. So I'm very excited about that fight. I think it's a great heavyweight matchup. You agree?
Man,
Yeah,
I tell you,
Jack.
Rosenstrike, Rosenstrike has that amazing, you said, Scott, that knock your block off power. And he's surprisingly technical, too. People don't realize, I mean, this is a former Muay Thai world champion. So he's sneaked that avenue. This one's going to be a bit of a back and forth. Volkov, like you said, he's going to come in there hungry, but you can't slip for a minute because Rosenstruck, doesn't he have, now correct me if I'm wrong here, but doesn't he have a flash knockout with like 5 seconds left in the fight? I mean, didn't he turn somebody's very, very late in the fight? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
No.
I mean,
I'm trying to think of who he did it to, but it was last second. Absolutely, Pagliaro.
So, I mean, this is a guy who, you know, he's not blow your wad in 30 seconds and then run out of steam. You know, this guy could go for 3 rounds. Even, you know, he could go for 3 rounds. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. It's going to be an interesting technical battle, and it's going to be, you know, whether his power could check Drago's chin and send him to sleep.
You know, when I look at this fight, I look to see if a guy like Rosenstruck can close up some of the holes he's had. Okay, now those holes being his lack of output, right? He's such a good striker, but yet he'll sometimes just lull a minute and a half, 2 minutes away on what, right? And it's hard to win fights that way, 1. And 2, he hasn't proven to be the best at stopping getting taken down. And when he does, he hasn't proven to be the best at getting himself back up. You know? So when you look at a guy like Volkov, the guy's been around for a long time, right? The guy's fought everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, the guy can clinch you up against the cage. He can hit you with hard knee. He's got good trips off the cage. He's got good striking. He throws a lot of volume. When you look at that, you have to start to say, okay, can Rosenstruck close those holes? And if he can, you guys are 100% correct. He's got the power to put him to sleep, right? And he's got the technical wherewithal to do it, right? To stay, to move with him, the footwork, all the good stuff that he does, right? But I need to see that. I need to see the output. Or else I just think Volkov's just going to tee him up with that jab and just bust him up.
Yeah, you're dead on, Dallas. I think in addition to that, he's also got that teep. You know, he uses his legs like jabs, right? He throws that teep kick. You know, he's got vicious kicks in general. So I think that's another aspect of the game. You know, Rosenstrike is a Muay Thai guy, but like you said, the volume's very low. And I don't know if that's because Nagano turned his lights out. Maybe that made him change a little bit. Or maybe that's just his style, right? You can get away with that in Muay Thai a little bit, where you give and then you give back, right? Oh, I'll take your shot and then I'll absorb it and then I'll bring it back to you. And if you do that in MMA, you can be sitting there waiting, right? Because guys will lull you into traps, because it's not just about the kicks and the punches. It could be takedowns, it could be everything. So I think Volkov poses a lot of problems. I'll be very surprised if Rosenstrike's able to cut that distance. He is a one-punch guy. He's got the X factor at all times, right? But I think Volkov's going to be a little too complex of a problem to solve. But, you know, these fight nights are built for hardcore fans like us. You know what I mean? Like, most people, in my opinion, don't even know these fights are happening. You have to be a hardcore fan.
Yeah.
And this card is one of those cards from top to bottom. It's a really nice fight card. I'm excited about it because for me, I don't
That's
care.
right.
I used to go pick up the VCR tapes at the store and just find every fight I could just to have the video. The fighters used to hit me up. Like I remember Vince Lucero had a fight. You know, I need video on this guy. I'd go through my tapes and I'd find. So you're giving me UFC on a weekly basis. You give me UFC on a weekly basis. I'm just a happy man, right?
Oh yeah.
This is that kind of fight card where the hardcore fan like me, I'm crack a beer, put the feet up, and it's going to be a great fight night.
Vince Lucero's probably got one of the best, funniest fight stories ever, man. When he shit his pants in the cage that one time, dude, come on, man. Like he's like, what was I gonna do? I just kept fighting.
So do you remember? Yeah, I'll tell you, Vince has been around the game for a long time. So remember when Rico Rodriguez won the UFC heavyweight title? So we had a watch party there for Rage in the Cage, and Vince Lucero was one of the top heavyweights for Rage in the Cage at that time. Young dude at the time, right? And some guys getting into a fight in the bar. We had no idea who he was. And we have a huge fight party, but someone else is inside the bar getting into a fight, and Vince plays nice guy and tries to break it up. Well, this guy is acting like an animal. And he's like, come outside, I'll whoop your ass. Vince turns around with a smile on his face and goes, I'll be right back. Comes back in, maybe 2 minutes later, and the guy next to him's like, oh, dude, he just dropped this dude outside, and he's got the biggest smile on his face. That's a fighter, right? That's the kind of guy where he's just smiling, happy that a fight's about to break out. Yeah. Meanwhile, we got RTO Sullivan's. I'm just trying to avoid getting hit. Vince is like, let's go, buddy. It's time. Yeah, that's the old school right there.
And the funny thing is, Vince is such an unassuming guy. If you've ever met Vince, he is just like, number one, you talk about the last person in the world you would ever picture as being a professional fighter. It's Lucero. And I can't tell you how many fights I got in over that guy when he fought Dave Bautista with the wrestling marks. And I'm a wrestling fan. You guys know that. You guys know I'm a diehard pro wrestling fan. I would fight these idiots over Lucero, and it's like, who's this fat piece of shit? I'm like, I'm going to fuck him up. And Vince would just constantly IM me. And it's like, he'd IM me. It's like, I don't give a shit what they say. I'm getting a huge paycheck for this. Don't worry about it. I'm getting like more money than I've ever made in my life. Who gives a shit? But yeah, Vince is just such a unassuming guy, and it's like I could see him just dropping his clown outside RTO Sullivan's. I just could picture this in the back of my mind. That's Vince for you. Like, he's cool as hell, but don't fuck with him. That's just the bottom line,
Yeah, I'll tell you, man.
This dates it back to when my first foray into mixed martial arts. I was managing Bo Triple A, and Bo Triple A fought Vince Lucero in Rage in the Cage. Beat him for the title. I remember that had to have been, 12, 13 years ago.
Yep, many a moon ago, Dallas. You're dating us now. We're just old men now.
I got it.
Rage of the Cage is back.
I remember going
I'm going on Friday.
Who's running it now?
Rolling again.
Roland's back.
Oh,
Roland's back. Listen, and
he's like that hemorrhoid that won't go away, man.
Hey, listen.
He's like that hemorrhoid that won't go away.
I've got a great Roland story. So just so you know, I wouldn't even be involved in MMA if it wasn't for Roland. Roland met me at a fight show. I did a tough man contest, and I won a tough man contest. The next morning, I did a radio show with my buddy Kurt. I was just guesting with it. He comes up to me and goes, didn't you fight last night? It was the only time I ever fought was a tough man contest, other than against Steve Sage in MMA. But this was before MMA. Yeah. And this was, I fought a tough man. So Roland sees me and he's like, hey, man, I want you to come tonight and I want you to announce. He saw me announcing on the radio. And so I went to Rage in the Cage that night, and that was the beginning of my birth of MMA. And I'll tell you, man, the guy is a pioneer, like say what you want about him. But when it comes to Arizona, when I arrived in Arizona, I came from New York, and New York, of course, didn't have MMA until recently, right? So I arrive in Arizona, and this is 1999. So all of a sudden, you're talking 6 years after the development of the UFC, right? Just 6 years. The baby, the sport is still a baby. Yeah. And I arrive, and I remember opening up the paper and seeing that the night before there'd been a main event of Homer Moore versus A-Dog Sullivan. and there was a local
Oh.
fight show. And so I looked up the fight show, found out who the promoter was, called them, told them I'm media with Arizona State Press. And I started going to all the Rage in the Cages. And that's how I started working with them after that. So I started going as a fan, and then he saw me and brought me in as a commentator. So,
Nice.
you know, Roland was doing things that people weren't doing back then. You know, now, mind you, Roland's not really a fight fan. So he would just as soon promote midget wrestling as he would fight.
I love midget wrestling.
Yeah, I know you do,
True.
Carlos.
He's not lying.
You probably have a midget wrestler hiding behind that door right now. But I can tell you,
That's why I
Roland.
got up.
Yeah, Roland. That's why he got up for a minute. he had to go feed the midget. But Roland would be just as happy with midget wrestling every single night as he would MMA. But I got to give him credit for being a pioneer.
I
That's
got
back
a,
with the open hands,
got a-
wasn't it? That was back. when we
I
had
got a
the
funny
open-
story for you guys.
Open hand strike.
It's the
Yeah,
God
yeah,
honest
Jay,
truth. My
tell
lips
your
to God
story,
ears.
Jay.
I'll say this about Roland. Roland is, you know what, and I'll say this about Roland. I did his events. This was when he was outside associated with the with Rage in the Cage. He was doing his Muay Thai, not really MMA. It wasn't MMA, but it was MMA.
Yeah,
Bad
I'm gonna tell you
blood,
that.
right,
Roland,
yeah.
say whatever.
Bad blood.
That's it. Bad blood. Say whatever you want about Roland. He always paid me. I never left this event without having money in my hand. I will say that about the man. I always got paid before the event. He held true to his word. Now, granted, he drugged me to the titty bar after the show. Okay, I always had to go to that was part of the deal. I had to go to the adult entertainment club, and I felt sleazy as hell, and I never quite told Amber where I was afterwards, but hopefully she doesn't watch this. But there was an event, and you guys will have to ask Wayne about this. Security guards at the front of the Arizona event, and there was this one guy that was fighting on there, and his brother was just completely getting out of control, completely just losing his shit. And Wayne and I are talking in the back, and Roland is talking in the back, and Roland, oh brother, this is gonna get bad. This is gonna get real bad. And these people were ready to jump the cage. It was one of his smokers.
Yeah.
So the one female security guard comes in there, and it's like they're, it's after his one fight, the brother, and they kept telling me the one brother says, I'll give you $100 if you announce him as something else. I'm like, fuck it, I don't care. I'll take $100. I'll announce him whatever you want. I'll call him Jesus Christ Almighty for $100 extra. Well, afterwards, the brother's up by the cage, already to enter the cage, and the security guard says, you can't go in there. You can't go in there. Well, the brother taps his pocket. The female security guard taps his pocket. Roland's like, oh, Jesus Christ Almighty. I mean, Roland's sweating buckets. Wayne's sweating buckets. I put my arm around the guy. I'm like, come on, man. It don't need to be this way. And we walk to the back, and it's like, Wayne's like, Wayne and Roland are like, Roland says to me, I'm buying you first lap dance at the bar. I'm like, no. Well, it turns out that guy actually murdered his brother later, a couple of years later. It was crazy. I'll ask Wayne that story, but these are Roland Saria stories. You'd have to see it to believe it, man. Roland is like, it's like there's the Wild West of MMA in Arizona, and then there is Roland Saria shows, and there is like his is completely over the fucking rails. Like,
Yeah,
Roland
listen.
is a man of his world.
Listen, I got to give you guys at least one good Roland MMA fight story. Okay. Roland got headbutted outside of the cage in front of the entire arena one night. So Todd Medina, who is now doing a podcast with Chris West Side Strangler Brennan.
Love
and
that
his
guy. Chris is good.
Cool
Good
OG MMA fighter from California.
Good dude,
Was brought in, former UFC fighter, by the way, had one UFC appearance. He was
He
brought
fought
in
Pat
by
Miletich.
Yeah, and he brought him by Roland because he loved bringing in the old UFC names. Even if you had one UFC fight, you're a UFC veteran, and that's huge. So he brought in Todd Medina to lose to Edwin DeWeese, right? Because you don't bring these guys in to win, you bring them in to lose. So Edwin DeWeese catches Todd Medina with an armbar. Mark Stevens, I think the referee, black dude, I think was the referee. I think that's his name, but somebody who knows from back in the day could probably correct me. But whoever the ref was, the arm wasn't fully extended. In fact, Medina had it pretty like cocked. You weren't extending the arm, and he had a good hold on it. The ref stops it. Medina loses his mind. He goes outside the cage, hunts down Roland. Roland had just stepped up on the platform, and he headbutted Roland. Roland's nose started
Oh,
gushing blood. I mean, literally, how many times have you seen a promoter headbutted by the main event fight?
I got
I-
a rolling stories myself, but I don't think they're safe to be told on air. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Rolling,
Okay,
you know,
I
I'm
gotta
looking at
ask
you,
you a
bud.
question
You
here.
know. I
We
kept
know
it,
Roland.
right?
We know.
I'm holding
Okay,
it for you. I'm holding
I,
it.
I got a question for you, Scott, and you need to confirm or deny this. Was Joe Riggs supposed to fight Gilbert Aldana in the fight out? Was he supposed to fight Gilbert Aldana? And for those of you that don't know Gilbert, we'll tell the story. That fight was supposedly in the works. That was like big money fight at the and it was just another big money fight that was supposed to take place in the Suns Arena right when Gilbert drowned.
Yeah, I don't think that fight would have taken place. Joe and Gilbert were friendly. Joe doesn't. Joe doesn't typically fight friends. You know, that's why he never fought Edwin DeWeese. That's why he never fought. You know, a lot of the Arizona guys that were at that weight class, he didn't necessarily fight those guys because once they train with him, Joe becomes friends with them. You know, and so I don't think that rumor was true. I think at that point too, Joe had been quite a bit lighter than Aldana. Aldana was a big heavyweight, and Riggs at that point had been 185, 170, I think, even at that point. So I think he had been around 205 because it was in between fights. And I think that he was scheduled to fight. If that was ever put out there, it was probably just promotional stuff. I don't think that was actually any legs to that.
I didn't think so because that was something Roland tried to tell me. There was a big super fight plan that was going to happen at, I guess it was America West Arena at the time, that Joe was going to bump up to heavyweight for one fight. That was going to put Arizona MMA on the map, that they were going to compete with the UFC. It was going to be Joe versus Gil. And I'm like, wait, Joe's a 185er. Gil, last fight he came in for me, he fought Paul Buentello at 265. And Gil, God rest his soul, was every bit of 265. I mean, Gil was no small guy, you know.
He had to cut to 265. So, I mean, we all know that there's not a lot of guys that cut to 265. That's a big heavyweight. So I just think the logistics of it never would have happened. They were friendly. They weren't best friends or anything, but they were friendly. And again, I think the weight classes were so different. I don't think that was actual matchup. I will tell you that I almost booked Joe Riggs versus Ron Waterman. So if you remember Ron H2O Waterman, that was when Riggs was 230. And I'll tell you, I'm so glad that fight didn't happen because when I saw Ron Waterman in person, I recognized like, wow, this is a big, big dude. There was a guy from Arizona named Mark Asher back in the early days of Arizona MMA out of Casa Grande. We were talking about Vince Lucero. He ran around with those guys. And Mark Asher fought Ron Waterman. And it literally was a body lock, lift, slam, ground pound for like 1 or 2 shots, fight over. That's how dominant he was. I had a lot of belief in Riggs because I felt like he was younger, hungrier, faster. But when I saw Waterman in person, I'm really glad that it was a different fight that I booked for Riggs and not Ron Waterman.
Hey guys,
that was around the time you booked him. I mean, that's how you and I met around that time.
You're not, Carlos. You're not cutting us off.
I'm sorry. No, keep going.
Yeah, Carlos. Damn it, Carlos.
And the next time you cut Josh Emmett off, you better be like, hey, listen, Josh Emmett, thank you for your time. Good luck on Saturday night on this date. Don't you ever say, okay, bye, Josh. See you later, buddy.
Yeah. Send it to one of these two, huh? Send them a message on their phone. Let these two close it out. Jeez.
Yeah, you know, like,
Christ.
Yeah, come on, Carlos. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Okay, bye. Come on, Carlos.
Keep going.
If I could have the opening and closing of the golden voice of Jay Pagliaro every time, that's money, baby. That's money.
Yeah. You sound like you were talking to your mom on the phone.
All right, okay, bye, Mom.
Bye.
I gotta go feed the midget.
Mom. How about Scott? I'll be Roger. I don't do Roger Clemens. How about I'll be Bob Gibson and you can be Mariano Rivera. I'll open, you close.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. Let's close out the show right. Okay. I think we all know that we are Josh Emmett fans. I'm also a Calvin Kattar fan. I'm going Josh Emmett. I think that he's got the tools to put Kattar away, but this is a close one, man. I mean, it's like right there. What are your takes on the fight? What do you think, Carlos?
He's going to win. He's going to win third round submission.
Submission?
Yep.
Are you gonna? Well, he just got back from jujitsu, so you're not far off. What's the submission? You gotta, if you're gonna call submission, which is a huge
Rear
call,
naked choke.
a rear naked choke. So you think he's gonna drop him and then get the submission, or you think he's just gonna use his jujitsu from the beginning and use his
Drop him,
wrestling?
rear naked choke.
Okay. What about you, Sean?
Look, that's a tough one for me because I really like Calvin Kattar. I think Calvin Kattar moves really well, and I think he takes the shot better than anybody in the division. So that kind of takes a little bit away from Josh Emmett's game. Emmett fights longer than he is. Emmett can also grapple. I mean, I think this is his key to this victory is grappling, is to put him against the fence, take him down, and try to work some time on top, right? You know, work a little bit of that, get some ground and pound in. I think Josh Emmett may get it done by split decision.
Pagliaro.
You know, I'm gonna be the no. I was gonna be a contrarian dick and say I'm gonna pick Calvin just to be a jerk, but you know, I can't do that, man. The guy just spent 20 minutes on here, which was 5 minutes longer than he was supposed to, man. I mean, come on. All joking aside, though, a lot of what Dallas said, I like Calvin's footwork. I like his shiftiness. I like his toughness. He can eat a bunch of shots. We saw that in the Holloway fight. He will eat it and keep coming forward, but so will Emmett. I think this will come down to Emmett's wrestling. I think it'll come down to his cage control. I think this is going to be a coin flip. I'm going to go with what Dallas said. I think it's going to be a razor close decision. I'm going to go unanimous, though. I'm going to give it the unanimous decision with, is this 3 or 5 rounds?
3.
5. Main event, 5.
Okay, wow.
So I'm going to say it's going to be 3. It's going to be all 48, 47s, man. I'm going to say it's going to be that close, where it's going to be one of those ones where will it or won't it? You know, who really won? It's going to be that close because these are 2 evenly matched guys.
You got to think that if it goes to the cards, it's probably gonna favor Emmett because he throws with more impact, right? I mean, as a judge, that's what you're trained to look at is immediate impact. You're trained to look at damage. You know, you're trained to look at these things that are immediately impactful in the moment. And I feel like though Kattar may land 3 to Emmett's 1 is really gonna stick out. So you know, you expect the 25-minute dance, and I think at the end you leave it up to the 3 underpaid professionals at the cage, and they decide on an Emmett on that Emmett shots were more impactful.
Carlos, what's the date of the fight?
It is
2
Come on,
weeks.
you got to have this handy, buddy.
Oh, yeah, I know.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Carlos.
We
Austin,
rely on you
Texas.
for this.
Hold on. Give me a
You
second.
had one job.
It is.
I know it's in Austin, Texas, right? And when's the
There it
last?
goes.
I think this is the first one in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, first one,
Since
July 2nd.
Edgar Cobb, right?
July 2nd. There you go. We got all the picks. And remember, Calvin Kattar, that was probably the best Calvin Kattar we saw his last fight, and a really impressive performance coming off the loss to Holloway. I mean, again, when coming back from a loss, and that was a tough loss because he kind of got mentally, effed there a little bit against Holloway, right? He kind of mentally got broken during that fight, which Holloway does to everybody, it seems. And Calvin Kattar came back big time in that fight. So very exciting fight, man. Very exciting. We had Josh Emmett. Can I close it out with you guys? Can I do the closing? Do I get the honors?
Hey, man. Hey, real quick.
That ain't my job.
I'm
an analyst.
Yes,
To
Pagliaro.
my boy Rob McDonald, to Bobby Maximus, man, you did all of us old farts proud in there, man. 13 years outside the cage, and he fought a tough son of a bitch, man. He fought a tough guy in Eduardo Perez, who actually fights for Joel Lopez in Arizona. 13 years away from the cage, and you would not know it. Yeah, he lost, but this is not a sport that is easy, man. Not every ham and egger can get in there and do this damn thing. Yeah, he lost. Yeah, he got knocked out, but I don't know how many of you watch The Ultimate Fighter. He was in there and taking this guy down, man. He was out there. I've seen people embarrass themselves in the cage. I really have. I've seen people get in the UFC that are fresh. He didn't embarrass himself. He went out there and he actually did the damn thing, was winning that fight till he got caught. So kudos, my boy Bobby Maximus, man. One of my first actual friends in MMA. You did us old farts proud. Scott, close us, brother. Close us.
Yeah, the Scott Lewis lookalike. Oh, Bobby Maximus.
Yeah, he does look like old Bobby. He does look like Scott. He does look like Scott. He does.
Hey, I wish I had the body.
You and I got along so well.
Yeah, I wish I had the body of old McDonald right there. I wouldn't be upset with that at all. Hey, listen, man, for our super producer, Penny Buffington, for our benefactor, Wayne Craig, Carlos Ortiz, Sean Dallas Hall, and Jay Pagliaro, I'm Scott the Cube Lewis. This is MMA Fight Coverage.